Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1036. 1036, February the 7th, 2020, Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to the breaking news of the day, or of the last 24 hours. Well, the Hawkeye Cockeye, or the shit show that is the Hawkeye Cockeye, has still not been resolved. Here we are now, 4 days removed from the caucus in Iowa on Monday night, and it is still unresolved. Headline just today in Reuters, we still have no winner in Iowa. And then you get Commie Bernie, who comes out and gives a press conference and now is claiming victory in Iowa, which, in response to that, you get Tom Perez of the DNC, who's facing calls for him now to step down. He comes out and says that he wants the Iowa Democratic Party to recanvass the entire state. And of course, the top person there at the DNC in Iowa saying, we're not going to go out and recanvass the entire state. We're going to continue counting the votes. Now, then you get Booty Boy, Mayor Cheat. He now comes out. After Bernie comes out, makes his statement, and Perez comes out and makes his statement, then you get Booty Boy comes out, and now he is asking questions and wanting to challenge the process that's going on and counting these votes, because as it turns out, Bernie, in fact, is winning. It appears there's been 2 or 3 different numbers floated out there today, but Bernie is winning the popular vote. And as it currently stands, the last time I just checked a half an hour ago, it's currently showing Bernie is winning the popular vote and that they are tied in electoral votes. So it is still undecided. It is still a mess. I don't know if it's ever going to be resolved or how it would be resolved at this point in any way that's going to be accepted. No matter now, it doesn't matter what the final word is. No one is going to believe it, and this will spawn conspiracy theories. It's a devastating thing, and here's why. Because you have to remember that we're looking at this thing as just the event that went down on Monday night, but the people, the actual people that participate in these caucuses. Representing the candidate they support, they've been working at this for a long time, over a year. They've been knocking on doors, they've been working phones, they've been contributing time and money. A lot of effort is put in on the ground by people involved in these campaigns. And of course, as you know, I was a on-the-ground person for Ron Paul in 2008 and 2012. I know how much work it is. I know the efforts. I know what it's like to go out there in the freezing cold in the morning, knocking on doors, having doors slammed in your face, people screaming at you, cussing you out, dogs attacking you. I mean, it's not a fun process, I have to tell you. And you make a pretty big commitment, you make a pretty big sacrifice, and ultimately these are the people who are being taking a beating here. And I'm no fan of the demo commies, as you know, but I can kind of understand that these are the people who went out on the ground and did all the hard work, and it's for them this has got to be devastating, because you put all that time and effort and energy, and even if your guy doesn't win, you at least expect that you're going to get some sort of a result, some sort of a resolution. And when the thing gets thrown into complete chaos and turmoil, it ends up hurting the very people that you're counting on if you're a political party or a political candidate. The Democrats have done tremendous damage to themselves because of what they've done to the people who went out and did all the hard work. And it's not just going to affect the people in Iowa. Now you're going to have all these people all over the country in the Democratic Party who have gone out there and knocked on doors and made phone calls, contributed time, money, effort, put up with a lot of crap all over the country, and they're wondering whether or not their primary is going to be rigged and what all their work was worth. It's just like what we saw in 2016 with all the Bernie supporters. And again, I don't like Commie Bernie. Most of his supporters are nuts, but they deserve to have a fair process, just like we do. I mean, let's have a battle, let's have it out, let's see who wins. I'm all for that. But whether it's Republican Party or Democratic Party or whatever party, you got to get that right, because the people who ultimately suffer the most and take it on the chin are the people who actually go out and do the hard work, the heavy lifting, make all the sacrifices. And so this is why this is so devastating on a large scale, because what happens if in New Hampshire they have similar problems? What happens if they have similar problems in other caucuses or primaries throughout the country as this goes on? And I expect they will. Clearly, if they don't have their head together in Iowa, what leads us to believe that they've got it together other places? And once you sow the seed of doubt as to whether or not the party can execute a primary or a caucus in one state, that gets into the mind of all these Democrats who've been doing all this work for a year and a half all over the country. This throws a very big question mark in the minds of all these people who on the ground have gone out and worked. And those are the voters. Those are the people the Democrats are counting on to catapult them to victory, to launch them into the winner's circle. And now they're all filled with doubt, frustration, anger. Conspiracy theories will now be abound from everywhere. And so ultimately this is going to turn out to be much worse than even what it appears now. And the fact that they're 4 days out and they're still arguing over the results, and now we're at a time where like I just said, where they could come out a week from now and say, okay, we finally sorted it out, and here's who won, and here's who came in second and third and fourth, and here's what they got, or whatever. It's not going to matter. By that point, the whole thing is spoiled. It's ruined. And by that time, we'll be looking at the third primary, and they still will just maybe have figured out the first one, if they're lucky. But now you've got challenges, because you've got Bernie coming out saying, hey, I won, I got the most votes. And if you look at the very latest, where I just got half an hour ago, wrote it down here, let me see where it is. Yeah, just a half an hour ago, they're saying that they got 97% of the vote in, and they've got Buttigieg at 26.2, Bernie at 26.1, 0.1%, all that's separating them. But Bernie has got the most votes. They have Warren at 18.2. They have Biden at 15.8. And these are the most recent results. But you have Bernie showing in two different counts having the most votes, and now they're actually tied in delegates. So this is probably what caused Bernie to come out and say, okay, I won Iowa. And that causes Perez to have to come out and say, uh-oh, then we want a complete recanvass, because they can't allow Bernie to have the victory. That spoils the whole plot. The whole idea is to take out Bernie. And staying on this topic, I'll have to skip around a little bit, but staying on this topic, we have Quid Pro Quo Joe in a speech now in New Hampshire, now coming out and admitting, after first saying that they did well there, he's now coming out and saying that it was a real gut punch. A real gut punch. Yeah, it was more than a gut punch. If you're Quid Pro Quo Joe, it was a Mike Tyson knockout punch, in my opinion. And Biden doesn't have a glass jaw. He's got a ceramic jaw. I mean, I don't know how you recover from this, to be honest with you. And as I said, he never had a chance to begin with. But he says he's in for the long haul. I don't think he is in for the long haul, because at this point it's pretty obvious. But even more importantly, Biden came out. This was in another speech he was given. He came out and actually told the truth. He came out and actually admitted why they're trying so hard to stop Bernie and why they're rigging it against Bernie. And this is exactly what I said just, 3 or 4 videos ago. It's because the Democrats know that you cannot elect Bernie as your nominee. You can't make Bernie your nominee and have him running for president on a national socialism, you can't have him run as a national socialist as the top of the ticket and have Democrats all across the country running on something else. I mean, your president, and if you're going to win, your president has to be running on a message and then all your and all the people running in the same party with him for Congress have to be on the same message. They have to have a unified message. So what happens if you get Commie Bernie running on National Socialism? That means that all the down ticket people would have to run on National Socialism or run on something else, and that would put them in opposition to the person who's going to be what they believe the head of the party and the president. You can't have the president running on a completely different platform than the people in the same party running for Congress. You can't have that. So if the Democrats get a Bernie nominee running against Trump, what are all those Democrats across the country and running for Congress, what are they going to do? So as I said in the video I did a couple days ago, it destroys the down ballots. If Bernie runs and gets the nomination, all those Democrats running for Congress will get wiped out. They'll get wiped out because as they're running in their primary or as they're running in the national election against their opponent can simply look at him and say, well, your guy running at the top of the ticket is a socialist. Are you running as a socialist? And they got to say yes or no. I mean, they got to take a position. And if they say, yes, I'm with my man Bernie, I'm running on the socialist platform, they're screwed. If they say, no, I'm not running with the top of my ticket, Bernie, on socialism, I'm running on neoliberalism, Hillaryism, whatever. People are going to look at that and go, well, you can't do that. What, your guy's going to get, and what? So you're going to have the top of your party, he becomes president, and you're going to be what, voting against his agenda? You see, this simply doesn't work. Your party has to be unified in a national election. Your guy running for president has to be running on the same talking points and the same message and the same policies as everyone around the country running with him as down ballot candidates running for Congress. This is why it doesn't work. And this is exactly what Biden said in a speech in New Hampshire yesterday. He said, this is why this matters. And I believe what's his exact word he said. Yes, he exactly stated that this, he says, we have to stop Bernie because it would have a devastating effect on the down ballot elections. Exactly. All those Democrats running for Congress would be put into a box that they don't want to be in. They either have to run with Bernie as a socialist or against him, and both are losers. And you could lose, goodness gracious, dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of congressional races because the person running for Congress would have to run on a completely different agenda than the top of the ticket, which would be Bernie. So this is why it doesn't work, and this is why the Democrats must stop Bernie. But can they stop Bernie? I honestly don't think they can, unless they just flat out cheat him. And that looks like what they've decided to do. I mean, you have Buttigieg who comes out and announces that he won Iowa before anyone in Iowa ever announced it, before anyone announced it. He was doing a victory speech. And then we find out later that he had some investment in this shadow app company. And then, of course, it all goes wrong. Their plan blows up. The app blows up. It's not working. Then we find out that they accidentally put the number to call the headquarters to report votes back and forth. They put it on some sort of a mail out, so everybody in the country has got this number. So people are calling this number and just burying the phone lines, So I mean, just the absolute disaster is going on here. Now you've got Bernie out claiming he won. Now you got Perez in response to that saying, no, we're going to have to recanvass the whole state to prove Bernie didn't win. Now you got Buttigieg now wanting to challenge as well. I said this is going to end up probably in courts. We're probably never going to find out who actually did win Iowa. And even when they do come out and maybe figure it out, by that time we'll be so far gone that no one will even care anymore. And even if they do, no one will believe it. No one will believe it. This is why, and again, the effect, the ripple effect that this is going to have all across the country, and every Democratic primary now is going to be under a certain air of suspicion. And you're going to see more of these types of fails. This is not just a one-off. You're going to see more of this type of stuff. And it's a disaster. It's as big a disaster as I think I've seen this early in an electoral process, particularly with the primaries and things. You normally got to get this stuff right. And man, they have really blown it here, and it's going to get worse. So we'll continue to watch the shit show, but it's just getting worse and worse by the day. You'd think by now they would have cleaned this up quick, but man, they obviously don't know how. What a mess. And these people are the people who want to run the country, man. Take a close look. Well, this morning, or yesterday morning, I should say, Trump ripped Pelosi galore at the prayer breakfast. I mean, literally called her out and her party and the whole shift show, the whole sham, called out the whole thing. Incredible. Pelosi sitting right there, 4 seats away. Trump's holding up the, Trump acquitted newspapers in the Washington Post and the New York Times. Pelosi just sitting there. I mean, she looked, I don't know. I mean, she looked nuts to me. She wasn't taking it very well. And he was ripping her personally. I mean, it's incredible. I love that Trump is so, I mean, he just says what he thinks, man, and I love it. It's different, but I love it. And it needs to be done. It's needed to be done for a very long time, and I'm so thankful we're actually being able to witness this, because it's going to change politics forever. Truth, real truth, is hopefully making a comeback to our system. This is the kind of thing that happened back in this country, 150 years ago, before we had the Uniparty. So, yeah, it was great sitting there watching Trump just roast Pelosi, and she was just not taking it very well. Then, after the prayer breakfast, he goes and gives another speech where he goes through the entire process of what he's been through since the time he was elected, with the Mueller witch hunt, the Ukraine hoax, the whole impeachment thing, and just lays it out. And, he pulls no punches whatsoever. I mean, calls it bullshit, says Pelosi's a very nasty, very bad person. I mean, Schiff, and a whole 9 yards. I mean, he's just laying it out there. And it's incredible, because he's a fighter. He fights back, but most importantly, he's teaching the Republicans how to fight back. And now you're seeing a lot of them fighting back. And this is something you never really saw. The Republicans are always terrified of the media, terrified of the Democrats, but now you're starting to see them grow a spine, and you're seeing them pick up because they're seeing how well it's working for Trump. And now that they're doing the same thing, they're seeing their poll numbers go up. And they're getting this feeling of confidence that, yeah, we can actually fight these people. And Trump's proving it. And that's the best thing that's coming out of Trump, finally putting some backbone into this party. Of course, then Pelosi goes and gives her presser, and she just looks rattled to me. She looks very rattled. And she basically comes unhinged. She's still refusing to apologize for ripping up the speech. She's doubling down on that. And even the reporters asking the questions, you can tell are very suspect, and they're kind of thinking, man, she's kind of off the rails. And they're calling her out on it in a sense, but she's just doubling down in the whole 9 yards. But it's obvious that she got beat here. She got beat bad. She knows she got beat bad, and she just cannot admit it. But at this point, she'll survive probably until November, when the Democrats lose control of the House and she's gone. But she has been severely weakened, and I don't think she has very much play left in her at this point. She's just going to try to hold on. They may try to get rid of her before that, but I think she'll hold on. But her legacy is going to be destroyed. She is going to, she's going to go out, not with a bang. Let's put it that way. But, looking at Pelosi and looking at Trump, it's kind of funny, because normally we look at presidents after the first 4 years, and you always see where they've really aged. They all seem to age a lot in the 4 years during their presidency. But when you look at Trump, he looks about the same as he did 4 years ago. He doesn't appear to have aged at all, even after all that he's been through. But when you look at Madame Botox, Pelosi galore, and look at her 4 years ago and look at her now, she looks like she's aged 10 years. Clearly, this has been a lot more stressful on her and has taken more of a toll on her than it has on Trump. And believe me, the worst is yet to come for Pelosi galore, because there's much more fallout to come in the months to come. Now, we had the rotten Reverend Clinton over on the Eddie DeGeneres show. And, of course, it was, Eddie DeGeneres praising the Rotten Reverend Clinton kissing her ass throughout the whole show, and the Rotten Reverend Clinton's praising Mitwit, and she's still saying that many people want her to run. Of course, we know that it's her people right now running the DNC, which is responsible for a lot of what's going on right now. I mean, her guys, that's Tom Perez is the Rotten Reverend Clinton, and then now the guy that's going to be heading up the convention is Podesta. Podesta and Perez, two of the Rotten Reverend Clinton's henchmen, are running the show. And they're obviously rigging it for her name to be written in. And she was making the pitch there on Ellen DeGeneres. She's saying that you have to ask yourself two questions. When she's talking about Democrat voters, when they go to vote, they have to ask who can win, and then once they win, who can govern. She's clearly trying to play this word game to make people think, well, no one else here can really win, and even if they do win, they probably can't govern. She's talking about Bernie. If he wins, can he govern? No, he really couldn't. And can Buttigieg win? No. Can Warren win? No. Can Biden win? No. She's basically asking the two questions you would ask that the answer to will eventually be writing in Hillary at the convention when it goes bust, because it's such a fiasco that they're going to screw it up on purpose probably, so that they have to completely just get to the convention and say, okay, the entire primary process was screwed. I mean, too many mistakes. We had all these problems from Iowa to here to there to here. Nobody's any conflict. Let's do this. Let's just go ahead. All the delegates are here, and now they're gonna make a rule change to allow super delegates to vote in the first round, most likely, and that'll be, of course, Perez and Podesta making that call. And then once they find that thing that they can do, they're going to say, okay, well, what we need to do now is we need to nominate someone, and we run the party, and we've decided with our brain trust that the best person that we can go with is the Rotten Reverend Clinton. I mean, this is all being set up by the Rotten Reverend Clinton and her henchmen to get her on the ballot. Now, Eddie DeGeneres asked the Rotten Reverend Clinton if she would accept VP. And I thought, I cannot believe that. And the Rotten Reverend says, oh, no, that would not happen. That would not happen. I'm thinking, you bet it wouldn't, because there's not a single Democrat crazy enough to want to have Hillary as the VP. I mean, you talk about coming up in the Clinton body count. You talk about your life insurance premium going up sky high. You try having the Rotten Reverend Clinton as your VP for a couple of weeks and see exactly what that's like. Yeah, I don't think I'd want to go there. But she's essentially saying, no, that wouldn't happen. But then Eddie DeGeneres pushed her on it, and she said, well, never say never. So, clearly you can just tell watching her on this interview that she has every intention of being in this, and she is in this thing. She's never gone away. She's never gone away. She's not just out there supporting the Democrats and trying to beat Trump. She's out there making the case for her, is what she's doing. And so you just continue to watch closely the Rotten Reverend Clinton. Believe me, do not count her out yet. And I honestly believe that if they do put her name forward a nomination, you talk about causing a civil war, I think that the convention will go absolutely apeshit. All those Bernie bros, Warren supporters, everyone's supporters are going to be just horrified if the Rotten Reverend Clinton gets written in. And I think that it's a crazy move. The Rotten Reverend and the people at the DNC are they're tyrannical enough to do it. They're crazy enough to do it. They're stupid enough to do it. I don't think they understand quite how badly that will be perceived by especially Bernie bros, but even all the other candidates, would have a big problem with that. But I think everything is on the table right now. It's just, I've never seen anything quite like it, but we're going to continue to watch this as this develops. And it's developing very quickly, but it's going to be, it's going to come to a head here in the not too distant future. Something is going to have to give, and I don't know what that's going to be. It doesn't look like Bernie is going to give. So they're going to have to cheat him. That's the only choice they have. They're going to have to snatch it right away from him. And God Almighty, man, that is going to cause a lot of problems, to say in the very least. So let's just keep watching that. we have John Solomon writing today that a key witness told Uncle Bob, the executioner Mueller, that the Manafort Black Ledger was fabricated and was complete garbage. Wasn't true. That there were never any cash payments made. Everything was done through wiring of money. And Mueller had this information, and he also had Rick Gates, who was testifying against Mueller, who they turned, even saying, nah, that Black Ledger thing's garbage. He also had at least two Ukrainian officials telling Uncle Bob the executioner that, nah, the Black Ledger's garbage. And today we know it is. We know it was totally fabricated garbage. But that's what Mueller used as probable cause to dig into Manafort, and that's why he is in jail today. His lawyer, now having this information, should go back to court and get that case thrown out. Mueller used probable cause on something he knew was false. That's how corrupt he is. Same thing he did with the dossier. Mueller knew on day one that there was no Trump-Russia collusion, but continued on for 2 years so that he could help the Democrats win back Congress so they could impeach Trump. Uncle Bob the executioner and his entire Hillary donor posse need to be handcuffed, perp-walked, and sent to prison. They're a part of the coup, a big part of the coup. We have some good news here. We have the Treasury Department has now turned over those documents requested by Grassley and Johnson. This is highly sensitive financial records on Hunter Biden and Associates, his company, Hunter Biden and Associates, and this is all part of their investigation. So what this is going to show is this is exactly what Giuliani got through other sources. He got it from the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians got about the same thing. It's basically all the paper trails of Hunter Biden's company, all the transactions, all the financial transactions. This is where you are going to find the money laundering. This is where Grassley and Johnson are going to see the clear laundering of money through Hunter Biden's company. And they now have that information turned over by the Treasury Department. And I believe that Mike Pompeo is also sending over some additional supporting documents from the State Department. Man, oh man, Hunter Biden is absolutely going to find himself in front of one of these committees in the not-too-distant future. Biden will probably be out of the race by then. And as I said before, this entire thing is a way bigger disaster than Biden could ever imagine. I told him months ago to get out. We now have a new document showing that Rodenstein sought out Comey's advice on appointing a special counsel, and he had wanted Andy McCabe to talk to Comey and get his thoughts on appointing a special counsel. Now, we previously had learned, probably a year ago, that McCabe, that Rodenstein had first asked McCabe to talk to Mueller himself. Rodenstein tells McCabe, he says, hey man, why don't you give Rodenstein a call? Why don't you give Uncle Bob the executioner, Mueller, a call and ask him what he thinks about a special counsel? And McCabe said, well, I'm the acting FBI director. Why are you asking me to talk to Mueller? I mean, you're the acting AG right now. I'm the acting FBI director. It's our call. What do you want to call Mueller? I mean, if you want to appoint Mueller. But and don't ask me to call Mueller. You call Mueller. You want Mueller's opinion? You call him. And now we're learning from Andy McCabe that Rodenstein not only wanted McCabe to call Mueller to get Mueller's take, Rodenstein wanted McCabe to call Comey, who had just been fired. So Rodenstein wants McCabe to call Comey to see if Comey thinks that they should appoint a special counsel who's just been fired by Trump. And McCabe opens the investigation into Trump the day after Comey's firing. So clearly, by the time that this is happening, McCabe has already decided to appoint a special counsel. Man, oh man. And of course, we know that McCabe and Rodenstein had issues between them. And in fact, once Rodenstein appointed Uncle Bob, he pulled McCabe off the case. So there's going to be a lot of finger pointing and backstabbing going on here between these guys. I think Rodenstein's probably been flipped, is my guess. But this is interesting coming out in these documents. And it just shows what kind of discombobulated crap was going on between Rodenstein and Comey and McCabe and Mueller. As I said a long time ago, these guys were talking, probably even before Comey was fired. There's a lot to learn there, a lot to dig into. We have odds makers, the people who actually have money in the game, saying that Trump's reelection is now at an all-time high. It's 60.6%. As far as the betting odds go, we have Biden is 16-1, and Bernie is leading at 5-1. That's where the money is. That's where the money's going. We also have Attorney General Barr issuing an order to the FBI yesterday, telling them that if they choose to investigate any candidate in the 2020 campaign, they must first get his personal approval. His personal approval before they can launch an investigation into anyone running in the 2020 elections. That would include Trump, by the way. He's trying to head off another coup. What does he know? And of course, we have Matt Gaetz filing an ethics charge against Pelosi galore, and he's making the argument that he found some sort of a federal law which basically states that the State of the Union is a legal document that is supposed to be filed with the clerk of the House, and that when Pelosi ripped up the document, she essentially destroyed a government document, which is a crime punishable by fine and jail time, and also precludes that you could never serve or hold elective office again. And he's pushing this. Now, if you look at the legal wording of this and you read it, and I heard him read it on the air, it sounds pretty damn legit. And once Trump presents that State of the Union to the Speaker and the Vice President, it becomes a legal document for the House records, which is supposed to be filed by the clerk. And so Pelosi essentially destroyed government documents. Now they did get another copy. Kevin McCarthy got another copy, and he did file it with the clerk and the House clerk. So they do have it on file. But what Pelosi did was not just rude, obnoxious, and, not very, I don't know what the word is, but I mean, it's just, it's not what you're supposed to do when you're in that position, because you're not supposed to be like a partisan political person at that point in the State of the Union, acting as an officer of the House of Representatives, and you're supposed to be above that. And so the optics of it were bad, but it may be now, in addition to bad optics, may have been criminal. We also are finding out from one of the head of Black Hawk County, this brand new story again, we just found. In Black Hawk County, they're saying that Bernie delegates were given to Deval Patrick, despite the fact that in Black Hawk County, Deval did not receive a single vote. Did not receive a single vote. Yet, Bernie delegates were given to Deval Patrick. How does that work? How does someone who didn't get a single vote get the delegates from someone who got most of the votes in that county? Someone better explain that. And finally, good news. Jim Jordan will replace Doug Collins as the head of the House Judiciary Committee. That is excellent news, because that means that the Republicans take over the House in November, and I believe they will. Jim Jordan will now be the head of the Judiciary Committee, not Jerry Nadler. And we can only imagine what Jordan is going to do when he gets the gavel. Oh boy, look out. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more Towergate. Have a good night. See you. Bye.